Well, thank you everybody for coming. Today we arrested Justin Schuback for the murder of Robert Barron Sr. that occurred back in 2017. Following an arraignment, the defendant will be placed in the Lackawanna County Prison and held without bail. I know many of you have lots of questions regarding the investigation and what has occurred over the last 6 years, but I'm going to limit our discussions to what are contained in the four corners of our affidavit of probable cause. The Barron family has waited a long time for justice to occur, and no one in law enforcement is going to say or do anything to jeopardize the successful prosecution of this case. First, I want to say to the Barron family and to the entire community, we share your passion to see that justice be done in this case. While I inherited this case, which occurred a year before I became district attorney, no one in law enforcement ever gave up trying to solve this mystery. We sincerely hope that today is a day that the Barron family can begin to start to move forward and find some relief and closure. I also want to commend the spectacular efforts of the investigative team that has been nothing short of inspiring. What I observed over the last few days was truly amazing. I want to give a special shout out to the FBI CAST unit, who provided a significant break recently in allowing us to break this case. The New York State Police and their cadaver dogs for actually finding Robert's remains 6 years after he was left in the woods. We also owe a great degree of gratitude to all the professionalism from the law enforcement community, our Lackawanna County detectives who have been involved in this case from day one, the Old Forge Police Department, but a special credit to the Pennsylvania State Police for their involvement and aid. They really pulled out all the stops in order to make this arrest possible, to obtain DNA results in lightning speed, and to bring this case to a conclusion. And at the risk of naming any individual, I do think Trooper Greg Allen deserves a great degree of credit for his efforts throughout this investigation and prosecution, for making all folks work hand in hand together. This truly was a team effort, a successful team effort, with all law enforcement working hand in hand in order to resolve that case that had lingered on far too long for the Barron family. I thank you for coming. With that said, I'd be happy to answer some limited questions that's outlined in the affidavit of probable cause, but again, our comments will be brief with respect to any details of the prosecution or the investigation.
Mark, can you talk about how critical it was to find the remains this week? Was that the break in the case that you were looking for?
Certainly having a body helps, and that was a critical component, but it's also the location of the body that helps circumstantially establish that Mr. Schuback is the one and only responsible person for this murder.
How was that location developed? Was there a tip that came in that helped you zero in at that location after all these years?
There were advancements in the forensic analysis and the cell-to-tower information to give us and law enforcement a better pinpoint location as to where the remains would be.
Can you tell us about Justin Schuback's relation to the Barron family? Do they know each other?
Mr. Schuback was friendly with Bobby Barron Jr., and there are facts laid out in the affidavit of probable cause to explain their relationship.
Are there any other arrests that you anticipate coming in this investigation?
At this stage, no, but we will continue to investigate and determine if other arrests are warranted.
Can you say anything more about what took place over the last few days?
It was an extensive search in a confined area, so we had pinpoint locations on where to look. We used the services of the New York State Police cadaver dogs, and through a group effort from the FBI, the State Police, the Game Commission, Old Forge Municipal Police, our county detectives, some volunteers from Mercyhurst College and Forensic School. We were able to comb those woods and leave literally no stone unturned in order to determine the location of the remains.
Mark, how did you get the DNA results so quick?
Through a great degree of cooperation from our wonderful folks at the Pennsylvania State Police.
Had that area been searched before?
Areas around that area had been searched pretty thoroughly, but the advancements with the forensic analysis allowed us to pinpoint where and get a more specific finding as to where the body could be found.
You talked about new technology earlier in one of the releases. I heard there may be a connection with the technology used to arrest the guy who was charged in Iowa with those murders up there. Some sort of similarity between the technology used to pinpoint him and where he was. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm obviously less familiar with that case, but this is the latest technology that the FBI has through their CAST unit, and it's very accurate and powerful information to lead law enforcement in order to locate suspects.
Was he a suspect in the beginning?
Sure. And a lot of the information we had against Mr. Schuback was developed in the early stages, but we needed more, and we needed a body, and we needed just a little break. And that persistence, that tenacity, that attitude of never giving up from law enforcement made today possible.
Justin was arrested for drugs back in 2018, I believe, that stemmed from an earlier search warrant of his home. The search warrant itself was under seal, but was that search warrant, which took place in 2017, I believe, was that in relation to this investigation?
I believe the involvement, he was a suspect at the time, and then the involvement regarding his whereabouts was looked into at that time. However, there was little cooperation, if any, from him to assist us at that moment.
Can you tell us where he is at this moment?
He is in custody and due to be transported for arraignment, and we can certainly let you know when he will be arraigned this evening.
Where was he arrested?
He was arrested at his home in Old Forge.
Okay. And when will the cause of death be determined?
So we have findings from our coroner as to the cause of death based upon the forensic evidence gathered at the scene. We are waiting for an expert report from our expert from Mercyhurst College to assist in that final opinion, but we know the manner and cause of death based upon our investigation to date.
So you can't tell us yet?
We believe it was blunt force trauma that caused his death, but we're waiting for the expert reports to assure that that assumption and opinion is correct.
Is there any indication how he was transported out of the, I'm assuming he was restaurant?
Yeah, you'll see in the affidavit of probable cause, there's DNA evidence in his vehicle, which we believe was the manner he was transported from the crime scene to the woods.
Was there any surveillance cameras in the area at the time that may have picked up them transporting a dead body into a vehicle?
Yeah, unfortunately not, but there was a lot of video surveillance reviewed for years regarding that exact issue, but unfortunately not to preserve what you're looking for.
And forgive me if it's in the affidavit, but is there any indication as to motive?
We believe it's a burglary gone bad, and that may not be spelled out specifically in the affidavit of probable cause, but that clearly seems to be the motive behind the killing.
Any idea what they were looking for?
Cash.
Is it believed that there were others that were involved in the burglary?
At this stage, we don't have sufficient information to make any further arrests, but it is going to be an ongoing investigation. If there's other information that leads to other arrests, we will certainly investigate those thoroughly.
Do you know how much cash was missing, if that was the case?
Yeah, the affidavit of probable cause does not contain a cash amount. We know spending amounts that Mr. Schuback engaged in shortly after the murder, but the actual amount of cash stolen is not in the affidavit of probable cause. All right, I thank everybody for their time and their patience and their participation, but most importantly, we're grateful that we were able to bring some closure and relief to the Barron family. Thank you all.